Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to day 2 or episode 2 of the Invictus Fleet Week stuff. Hope you can all hear me okay and that the music is not too loud. I'll just knock it back a bit more. Good afternoon to Omnipresence TV, to Pilgrim, Edison Trent, Space Saga, Jag Mason, and Jock Cop. Good to see you all. I hope you're all doing well. Yeah. So, following the last episode, let's just jump in it. Hello, Stack. Good to see you. Let's just jump into it, because that's where we're going to end up. It's been a rough 36, 40, almost 48 hours now for Star Citizen. Just going to switch another light on. There we go. Fantastic. Don't look like I'm sitting quite in the shadows now. It's actually really bright outside. I guess the camera's just auto-correcting for it. It's been a rough 24 to 48 hours for the game, I guess. For CIG, through every fault of their own. I'll be interested to see what they do, because, they put some stuff up on the forums, which we'll have a look at in just a second to see what's going on and what they've said, just in case you're not, you haven't seen these updates yet. And then we'll go and look at Invictus, and if we need to kind of come back to this in a little while, then we can do. But, I do feel a little bit like this has been done to death through the whole community. I obviously added a video, I added it very late to the party, but I wanted also to make my feelings known. For so many things, it needs to be... feedback, when feedback needs to be issued, or to be given, it needs to be given constructively. Which means that, you keep back from personal attacks, and you try and go, hey, this isn't working because of this, and this is what you need to do better, right? So, once again, there are a lot of comments out there. This was always the plan, this is always what they were going to do, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff, without any evidence. That's just kind of like people filling in the blanks without really the information to do so. Just try and keep it to the facts. And that's what I tried to do in the previous video, so we'll see. Hello to Tech20, to Stunner, to Raygun. Welcome in, everybody. And to Can as well. Sorry, I didn't see you sneak in there. So we'll see. Yeah. So we'll talk about this very briefly, because it's, like I say, it's going to get done to death. There's a couple of reasons that this bothers me. And it's not that flight blades are a thing. Great. Flight blades, perfect. No issue. What this boils down to for me is this is monetization of something that previously hasn't been monetized. Skins, yeah, get it, no problem. They don't affect anything. The reason specifically flight blades bother me is because we haven't monetized this sort of stuff before. Okay, so draw parallels. Yes, the ships have always been monetized. That's one thing, right? Without monetized ships, there wouldn't be a project. That is the one thing. I think my issue with this is that it's not a gameplay loop in of itself, right? Flight blades aren't a loop. They augment other loops, right? So your flight blades augment your flying, whether you're racing, whether you're doing combat, whether you're just going from A to B. I suppose you can find any use for them. We have lots of things like that in the game already, right? So flying a ship, flight blades, you can't use flight blades without a ship. You bought the ship, there was a delay in that ship, even if that delay wasn't when you were buying it, it existed at some point, and for every package up until the game actually released, everyone had a delay. Not the issue, not a problem at all. The bit for this is we've had stuff that augments gaming loops before and it's never been monetized. So look at mining modules. Okay? The Sabir, everything else that you put onto a rock to... not monetized. Mining heads, not monetized. Any other component sold for a ship, not monetized. Now between flight blades, the turret for the Scorpius, the weapon for the Tonk, they're now monetizing these things. And whilst it might not be an issue to a lot of people now, and I get a lot of people aren't seeing that, and they're saying, hey, it doesn't affect me. If you don't kind of push back on it when it happens, even if it doesn't affect you directly, if you can see the way that it would, then that's an issue. So, you know, things like PDCs. The Idris comes with 5 empty PDCs. They're monetizing now. Instead of buying them in game, when they become available, you can't fill them out at the moment. So if you don't have a weapons kit, those slots are just empty. I'm sure, again, they'll sell them at some point in the future. But for now, it's money and money only, and so on and so forth. So there's all that sort of stuff going on. I'm just going to catch up with the comments and then continue all. Hello, Alex. Good to see you. And anyone else that snuck in. Del Kenobi. Hello, buddy. Yeah, so I'm just going to catch up with stuff. Rough in some ways. They also just made $5 million. They did, yeah. On Invictus, that's not unusual for the first day, especially when your first ship is the Idris. Ta-da! They fucked up, said Jock Cop. We told them. They listened and changed it. Can we get back to complaining about elevators now? Sadly, damage has been done now as it's gone viral, says Can, outside the SC scene, and it's a real bad narrative. I'm curious about the weapons kits for the 300 series. They've sold weapons and equipment before. Stunner says, in my opinion, they didn't mess up at all, but the community at large didn't like it, so it spoke up and CIG responded, which is a good thing. Someone brought up the tally modules being paywalled, and it did not raise concern, so this is really the second time. I saw a Reddit meme, pledge straw add-on, working elevator pass, 25% chance. Exactly that. The bomb racks, locking bombing gameplay behind a paywall. Yeah, it's kind of... There was a very good point, I think Salty Mike made it, about ships that aren't supposed to have bombs are getting bomb racks before ships that are supposed to have bombs are getting bomb racks. Or bombs, like, as part of their loadout. Which, I mean, you know, when you're right, sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, we'll pick up on the Atlas a little bit. I'm just gonna, in the background, I'm gonna just keep updating the launch page. So if you hear me frantically clicking and stuff, that's all it is. I promise. The Atlas thing, funny enough, we talked about this. So what the Atlas did or didn't do, you could still engage in that gameplay loop. All it did was take away your ability to move around 32 SCU containers. That kind of meant that you had 32 SCU containers, like, in your inventory, potentially, that you couldn't do anything with. And that kind of sucked. But what it didn't do was it didn't kind of limit access to a gameplay loop, or using something new. You had the hand tools, you had the tractor beam guns. You could still do hauling contracts. You could still go to the commodity kiosk and just get different size containers. So it didn't end the gameplay loop. So, you know, it's not that, right? And flight blades don't limit your access to anything either, in the same way that not having armor doesn't stop you running around with a gun and shooting people. It just means you can't carry ammo on you, and you're going to get shot really quick, right? So they're obviously intending flight blades to become an integral part of the gameplay to paywall this. The other part of that is now with these components, they're now permanently a part of people's loadout, and they don't go anywhere. And you got to wonder where the progression is, right? Is that people go, well, the progression's in the rep. Well, not if you can buy everything that you wanted from the rep with store credits. You don't ever lose anything because you've paid for it. CIG can't take it off you. So it might be a timer to get back. And the bit here is the insurance that they add to the game later on will likely allow you to insure components as well. I think it pretty much said as much with Citizen God, although until we see some firm plans, not just 10 minutes in a presentation talking about mainly something else, I'm not going to take it as written. But there's that. So Hey Chavez, good to see you. What is different between a ship locking a gameplay via a piece of equipment via locking a gameplay loop? So it's not locking a gameplay loop, as I've just said. It's not the ship locking a gameplay loop. It's ships have always been sold. That's not a problem. The point is here that they have previously released stuff like this to the community without paywalling it, right? So your mining modules, the mining things you put on asteroids to help you mine them, the mining heads that allow you to mining lasers were not paywalled, right? So what we've seen is they have previously released the stuff just into the game. They've not paid anything, right? You can imagine the next generation of stealth components come behind a paywall. Why? But why? What is that? What is that? What we're seeing is them looking at something that has previously been delivered for free. They're identifying that they could monetize it if they wanted to. They're doing that, and the community is going, nope. We pay for enough as it is. The amount of money this has raised through pledge funding shows that, right? We have agreed to a level of paying for stuff, right? This is as far as we're willing to go. And sure, CIG might go, well, tough, we're going to do it anyway. Clearly they haven't, because what they've said, going into the the flight bait feedback update, oh my god, why is that so hard to say? This is what they've said. Okay, so they basically saying here, okay, flight blades will be obtainable for AUEC in our next patch update, which is different than the normal pledge period, because the normal pledge period has been 3 months. And I think we know that, right? Even people will go, well, that's only because of the patches. Yeah, sure, but we've had stuff released already. The Drake Golem could have been ready, available for in-game UEC, and I don't think it is at the moment, correct? So yeah, so the smaller components like flight bombs or bomb racks, they should be available in-game at the same time as they appear on the store. I.e., you can get them in-game, you can buy them. I'm still not comfortable with them being sold. Not that it matters. I don't need to be comfortable with anything CIG does for CIG to do it. This is where we now have the conversation about what about the people who don't have the time to fly around in the verse all the time to do stuff. I just think if you take away earning ships and you take away getting the components and you take away having to find them and all that sort of stuff, if you do all of that, what's left to do? Hathor doesn't work. The Polaris thing, great, but you don't need any of this to do that, right? So yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. So sorry, A1 and A2 already in the game. Sorry, the bomb paywall. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I think they're just saying that, to be able to play to add it to ships that aren't bombers before ships that are bombers get them is weird, right? Because the technology is obviously there. This isn't like hey, I'm still waiting for my Endeavour, right? Not that. Different thing. But yeah. Presets for engineering with a time-sensitive speed that can be done humanly but automatically for ease of use, like droid interface commands in SWG. Possibly. These blades could have been a Wicklow reward, would have been better use of the work the devs have done. Yes, I don't disagree. So the old beta test for 3 months exclusive to see how the piggies bobs use the time to get an advantage. I mean, it might be a bit of advantage. Dell makes a really good point on this, is that if you were at the point where, 10 meters per second or whatever is the difference between you winning and losing, that is the case for maybe, an incredibly niche percentage of gamers, right? The people that are doing this all the time, the Avenger 1 crowd and all that sort of stuff. So that sort of stuff, I get it, but this has always been the case. Like, that same argument can kind of be leveled at ships, right? If you rock up with your Mustang and I rock up with a Hammerhead, good luck. While we can buy armor, weapons, or manners of equipment, bundles for ships, etc., I don't see this as a huge issue. My only issue with blades is there are extra costs to an existing ship. Yeah, I mean, what I would do, Matthew, is I would go read some of the comments. because, you know, this isn't kind of like a niche thing. This got absolutely ratioed, like really hard, to the point where, by their own admission, even if they weren't trying to hide the emotes, they kind of got, you know, it was bad enough that it was slowing them down, and they couldn't do anything else, right? The website was actually struggling to you know, keep up. So let's have a look then. Right, Robert Space Industries, what do we got going on? Okay, so no Meteor. So the thumbnail was clickbait. I apologise. The thumbnail was absolutely clickbait. There is no Meteor. We'll come back to the Blades thing in a little while, guys. We will talk about it, but I'm going to talk about this first. Just something to cleanse the planet. The Blades are still there. That bothers me. Fine, whatever. So the Connie Taurus then, as a Warbond kit for what price? So it's $15 off. Bizarrely, there is more money off of this than there was off the Vanguard, and the Vanguard is $60 more. So go figure. Maybe they had a look at the backlash yesterday, but maybe we need to add a little bit more. Maybe we need to give them an extra $5 off. I don't know. Just while we're talking about this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this into I'm going to pop a poll up which just asks people, what are your intentions on this Invictus? Are you going to buy all the things? You know, what are people's purchasing plans? And you know, I'd be interested to know as well whether or not Flight Blades has it kind of changed people's opinions, whether they've decided to close or open maybe their wallet. Maybe they think it's being unfair and they're going to buy some blades to make people, you know, to make people pay for being wrong, or make yourself pay for other people being wrong. That would be weird, but there you go. You know, I'd be interested to see what you guys think. So I'm going to pop that up there. We'll talk about that in just a second. But Connie Taurus, hey, one of my favourite ships. Still, as far as I'm concerned, the Constellation series, one of the most iconic ships in the game. From a very early stage, the ship was available. You know, and for me, it was like the first example of multi-crew gaming and what that was going to look like. Got me massively excited about it, and I was like, sorry, I'm on the soft stuff. I'm dealing with a very cold top of head. I've had my head sharpened today, so I'm not going to go too far down the alcohol route too quickly. So yeah. So okay, nothing massively big, exciting in that group. Fantastic, whatever. And I don't think there are going to be any other Warbond deals on there. You just cycle through because you tend to see it down here, right? If there is one, you'll see Warbond offer, like that one. But everything else seems to be pretty standard. Prices staying where they are for most things. Has anyone spotted one? Has anyone spotted a price increase across the board here? Nothing's jumping off the page at me as I cycle through, but you know, guys, we can't do multiple things at once, right? I'm talking to you. I'm looking at this. I'm trying to remember prices. Like this is not how I win. Okay, so that's that. Through Origin Jump Works. Obviously, Origin not a major military manufacturer, so we are not going to see much in that vein. Okay, great. And obviously not even a war bond there. Then for Argo, probably a very similar vein for these guys. You know, the MPUV series being part of the Idris, so those are there. The SRV doesn't look like there's a particularly great, or there is any sort of upgrade there either. Which is a shame. But that's it. So, you know, talk about the Meteor, but nothing actually having arrived in game. Yeah. So, is the Raft still 125? Let's go have a quick look. I don't think the Raft is here because it's not a military. The SRV is a support, yeah. So, because it's not part of the military thing, there's that. So, yeah. Manny says, Badges, the Constellation Andromeda LTI was my very first purchase in 2013. Nice. Nice. Going for the old school. Very, very cool. Yeah. So absolutely that. My 315p was paid for with the optional stealth package, so it comes with stealth components. I can take them off and use them on my other ships. So in a way, this existed. Yeah, kind of, I guess. In terms of selling things as a variant for a ship is one thing. The other thing about blades, so let's forget the pricing for a second. Let's put the money to one side, and just talk about blades themselves. There's kind of two things that I don't like here. I love the blades are in, and I like the direction that they've gone. The first bit is that they are model specific. The second bit is that they are variant specific. So not only have you got to make one for the Avenger, you've also got to, it's got to be specific to either the Titan, the Warlock, or the whatever the other one's called, right? Why? Why can't it be? Why have flight blades got to be that specific? Surely it's computer specific, not ship specific, right? It doesn't. I don't. I just don't like that. I think especially when you go through looting and you find stuff that's looting. So much of what we find going round is like if you find a P8AR, it's and then you find some P8AR ammo. The ammo goes into any P8AR. The idea. I mean, let's look at every ship in the verse, and then every variant, and then give it 2 flight blades plus everything else. Maybe they've got shield gem blades. Maybe they'll, the AI blades that we all know about and are waiting for. Maybe it's got cooler blades. Maybe it's got fire control blades. Maybe whatever, and then however many of those for each variant of each ship in the entire verse. Now, split them up, make them lootable components, and let's see how long it takes you to find the one that you're after. And I'm not saying everything should be found immediately. All I'm saying is that finding flight blades is going to be a bit... Well, I'm never going to pick that up unless it's the one that I need. So it's that sort of stuff. At the moment, with a lot of loot, you can pick it up. The only loot you don't really need to, or, is because you've either already got that stuff with you. Everyone even goes, "Oh, that's ammo for a gun that I like." Even though I don't have it, I'll pick it up and take it back, so I don't need to buy anymore. Especially now with the increase in ammo prices. So, or maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just a loot hobo. Kind of like to live stealing stuff rather than buying it myself. Hey, you tell me what I'm doing. So there's that. Let's transition back across. Yeah, so not a huge amount exciting from that sort of stuff. I'm just having a look while we still talk. I don't even know if is there an Invictus skin for stuff? It doesn't look like there is. Just going to zoom out again a bit. It doesn't even look like there's an Invictus skin. It looks like we've got like the patch bundles, but it doesn't look like there's an Invictus skin. So there's that. Okay. So let's go back through and see if we can catch up with all of that. Already got the Grey Cat minivan. Nice omnipresence. That's what we like. Hey, Mike G. Good to see you, my friend. Hey, and appreciate the love, buddy. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So yeah, Can says the same thing. Making them manufacturer specific really made getting them in the game terrible. I know it went nuclear, but most people couldn't give a clear reason behind the let's rant like crazy. I think they can. I think, whether or not you agree with that reason is something else entirely, but I think, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other. Sometimes the community really can't kind of explain why. The point here is they've sold weapons and they've sold armor, but you can obtain all that in the game from the same point. And at the moment, having that weapon or armor doesn't do you any good because you were losing it previously, so buying it was utterly pointless, and now everyone's in the same boat that nobody loses their weapon or armor unless it's in their backpack, not on them, right? So again, not an issue. Now, when your ship comes back with the blade in it, the blade just comes back. And other people don't have the ability to do that with any other components. And in fact, and I know I'm probably going to get a lot of agreement from chat with this, at the moment, you can have components in your hangar and they don't stay between patches, which is incredibly frustrating. for a lot of people. For me, do you know what? I tend to run everything stock at the minute for exactly that reason until they fix it. But hey, now they have fixed it as long as you pay the money. So yeah. Part of the reason to have multiple ships to start off with, components you can put in your daily driver. I'm buying with store credits, so socially, nice and socially. Hello, good to see you, my friend. If I didn't say that before. Buy melt credits only for me, so Space Saga. The interior of the Cunny rubs me wrong, but the exterior is great. Yeah, they've got some work to do on that ship. It's showing its age in a very rough way. So some people would defend cancer. Some people will defend CRG regardless of what they do. Nothing is going to change the White Knight's opinion, but CRG gets it. I think this is the other side of that argument, right? That's the argument that's made, which is the polar opposite of the people are bitching and they've got no reason, and they're going, well, hang on a second, we've got a reason. You're just not listening to it. That's the side. That's the other side, right? Gameplay loops have always been paywalled, right? Buy a brand new starter package and go mining asteroids. Right, buy one of the base $45 game packages, either the Mustang or the whatever the other one is, the Aurora, and go mine asteroids without spending any more money. Right, and in game you go, yeah, okay, I'll just earn up to it, fine, but you can also earn up to flight blades. Right, they had a delay. Every mining ship, every salvage ship has had a delay, so that's the other side of that argument. Okay, the point here is that we're not saying it's not an entire game loop of itself; it's a sub part of a game loop. And unless we're happy with them monetizing mining heads and salvage heads and laser modules and coolers and power plants and shield jennies and everything else, radars, the whole shebang, then, if you want them to go that way, then this isn't a problem. If you're like, well, they're not there yet, no, I agree. But when they get there, and then we're like, okay, now it's a problem, they'll just turn around and make exactly the same argument that's being made by a lot of people at the moment, which is, well, it's been like that for a while, and if you had a problem, you knew when to speak out. Well, there is a problem. People are speaking out, and they're doing that, right? Just, there's a marked difference between there is no problem with this, and I don't have a problem with this because it doesn't affect me yet. They're two different things, right? So that. Anyway, the $10 war bond for the Perseus to the Nautilus was worth getting. It was indeed. I'm definitely not saying that I've got one, but I'm also not saying that I don't. So, yeah. Let's go back down. Where are we? Not really. I mean, since you were able to get those components in game. Hey, Hargrim, good to see you, my friend. Haven't seen you in a bit. Hope you're doing well. Hope Invictus is treating you nicely. Model specific is wild. Why not say small, medium, large, capital, and maybe add combat, non-combat? Yeah, I think the purpose of the blade will help. Like, the purpose of the blade tells you whether or not it's combat or non-combat, and people will make it one or the other anyway. Yeah, I think it's like a small computer blade for, a small maneuverability flight blade goes in small computers. A medium maneuverability flight blade goes in medium computers, and so on and so forth. And that should have been it, right? It shouldn't be manufacturer specific, because as we're seeing, ships will work with all sorts of components. To then say all of those components can only be governed by something made by that manufacturer. But immersion, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Hey, Calm, good to see you, my friend. So yeah. I just want the Asgard, says Atrox. Nice little hauler, a very well armed and armoured hauler, it looks like. Notorious, missed the Idris Waves, Life on a Blue One. Absolutely. Also Notorious, that subject, thank you for putting me onto that. That's all submitted last week, or this week. That was all submitted yesterday. It is in the lap of the gods now. John Chavez, the flight blades being ship specific makes sense to me because it relates to motorcycle fuel injection tuning, which work much the same way. Yeah, possibly, but again, it's like, it's what I said before, right? If your Harley Davidson has a Suzuki engine and a thingy exhaust and a this and a that and the other thing, right? To then say, but Harley still has to make the thing that governs all those things, doesn't make a lot of sense. Victor's skin is gold and blue. Sorry, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I think that was the last one, right? It's still the last time. I just want my 600 ISIS car. God, I'm sorry, buddy. It looks like it's going to be a while. P52 referral bonus also started for ILW. It's an interesting one. Red Boxster, hello, buddy. Blast from the past. Good to see you, mate. For me, I was hoping they would concentrate on the core game rather than blades, spades, or whatever the next fad will be. Just make my quantum nav hold all the jumps rather than me having to replot. It is interesting, isn't it, that when they're focusing on stability, it's yet something new. And something that we didn't know was coming at this point. Like, there was a couple of weeks, I think, where people were talking about it, maybe a month or so. But I thought they were focusing on stability. And again, two things that we had no idea. We were supposed to be focusing on RSI ships. The Idris appeared. We were supposed to be focusing on stability. Blades appeared. Yeah, it's typical kind of say one thing and do another. Okay. So, Stoner says, so we don't know how we will or how CIG plans for us to loot blades in game in the future, i.e. we could loot a generic turn-in token for a blade of our choice, plus they do need to test them. Yes, very potentially. We'll see. Hey, Ray Louderbeck, good to see you, my friend. Perseus CCU, question mark? No, so what I'm thinking is that might... So at the moment... I've got CCU train to a reclaimer that is no longer needed. So I'm already there, and I'm thinking that given that kind of price increase, maybe I go from a Perseus up to a Polaris or something like that through that chain. Not getting rid of the Perseus I already have. The Perseus I already have is mine. The only way I was getting rid of that if they genuinely got rid of the turrets, like that post suggested. Hey, Arjon, good to see you. Unfortunately, my friend, no Meteor. Yeah, it looked like that was... you know, it turns out now I am guilty of clickbait. So, yeah, sorry about that. Had no idea what was coming. It was mentioned at the in the talk, so I thought I'd throw it in there and see what happened. Turns out that backfired spectacularly. So, sorry about that. My bad. Shady Phase, hello, bud, says, I was seriously thinking of buying the Grey Cat, and then I saw the pledge store. I immediately closed off my wallet. FCIG marketing, and especially FCIG management for signing off on this. Yeah, unfortunately, that has been the reaction of a lot of people, and I get it, and I understand where you're coming from. Jason's 1919 says, I don't see anything to buy this year. Yep, I mean, that's probably good news for the wallet, right? But yeah, absolutely. If you don't want anything, don't buy anything. Hargrim says, all good. I was on a break from SC, but Invictus, awesome. Breaks are good, but good to see you back, my friend. Darth Crest 007, so no Galaxy modules for sale. I thought they would be on sale. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see modules that have been sold now not being sold, even though the Tally modules are being sold. It's an interesting choice. Hey, Rusty Pigeon, good to see you, my friend. Ryan Boss, good to see you. Happy Saturday. And to you, my friend, and to you. Got myself the last jump to my CCU chain for the Endeavour. Congrats, my friend, you are there. And the MTC. Nice. The Mobile Tactical Centre, it's called, isn't it? So, yeah. Okay, I need to amend my previous shopping list to include the new Scorpius turret as it is pilot controlled. Yeah. Again, an interesting one. It's kind of like a change that's come in stealth, right? Is that the Heartseeker that they sold around Valentine's Day, it turns out that we could swap that turret out, and you know, I don't know whether CIG really meant for us to discover that, or whether that was like oh, that's working then. But you know, now switching turrets out, as we've seen with you know, not just weapons on the turrets, but entire fits for turrets with the Idris and now the Scorpius and everything else. Now switching out the main gun on the Tonk. Yeah, it's interesting. It's, you know, slowly catchy monkey. But these things appear to be working fairly well, so that is one small thing to take away from this. Again, if they want to sell Squadron 42 to the masses of gamers, they need to get a lot better on predictable consequences. You're not wrong. Pilgrim says, I had hope for a new Atlas type because of the closed expo space in the basement. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. What Atlas type? What Atlas variant would you have gone for, Pilgrim? What would you have liked? Galaxy is not military. Tally is. Yeah, agreed. Although arguably, you know, the cargo space. But yes, I take your point. I could see the Galaxy's medical module being sold at Invictus. Very possibly. I'm surprised they gave the Idris size 12 pilot controlled, yet the Polaris isn't. That. That. Yeah. So there's that. MTC is a great buying game for me. Yeah, that's it. I think the one thing I got, I think I ended up with a referral token that I kind of, before I realised how referral tokens work and the fact you can't really melt them, I'd kind of gone up to something. So I ended up with the NASA, is the long story short. One of my referral tokens is now a NASA. And I think I'm quite happy with that as a purchase, because I think that's, as a mobile respawn point, as a mobile vehicle, you know, I'll happily take that over a suit lockers and some weapon space. But yeah, Combat Atlas or Salvage Repair Atlas. I like the idea of a Repair Atlas. That's very cool. Yeah, I like that. Where did you see the models for the Galaxy? So we can't see them come. We don't know. We don't know where. Sorry, they haven't appeared here, because, as someone's already pointed out, Galaxy is combat, not. Sorry, Galaxy is not a combat ship. Therefore, it's not Invictus. Invictus is a military celebration. I'm just going to pop the fan on, guys. Hopefully, it doesn't piss you off too much, but it's getting warm in here. I've got the window shut because it's Saturday. There's people working outside, and the last thing you need to hear is people drilling and sawing and all that sort of stuff. Hopefully it's not too bad. I'll whack some music on in the background, and hopefully that will assist. Let's see what I can find in the music department. Bear with me just a moment. I shall be with you. Here we go. Play all. Let's go with that. Ta-da! So hopefully that's enough to mask the fan noise. Yeah, fan noise unsubbed. Rude. Darth Chris. Yeah, so MTC was an upgrade for the Pisces starter pack with 40k. Nice. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, good stuff. Just going to keep that music down a little bit lower, I think, because otherwise it gets too high. Badger turns on the only fan, says Space Saga. You're not wrong, sir. You are not wrong. So yeah, so that's where we are with Invictus. I tell you a couple of things that I have been really pleased to see. The first one of those is the missions that have run along this. If you haven't had a chance to get hold of them, when you log in, go to priority contacts, go to Happy ILW or Happy Invictus, go and visit the Expo Hall. 20 scripts right off the bat. That's that. Just for going to the hall. You don't need to do anything while you're there. And then, I'm always interested about stuff like this. What I could do is I could sit here and go, hey, if you accept the Hunt the Polaris mission, you don't even need to rock up and you'll get everything. So just have it active whenever it's up. And you will get the scripts. You don't even need to go anywhere near it. You can stay in your hab and earn 30 scripts per mission. What's really interesting is, from that, is that what we will see, likely, is a reset of that stuff, or massive inflation. Because if people are just doing that all day, every day, they've been doing it for the last 2 days, they'll do it for the remainder of Invictus, people will have far more scripts than they intended. So it might turn into an inventory wipe, because again, it's like it's any other exploit of an in-game currency. It might be serious enough that they end up starting to wipe stuff. So we'll see. Or they might just turn them off and make them non-persistent. Don't know. So yeah, just be careful with stuff like that. You know, the thing is like everyone's gonna do it, right? You not doing it is not going to be the difference between it happening and not happening. So hey, take advantage of it if you want to. You know, you're accepting the mission, you're not there yet, it's not an in-game exploit as such, you are merely accepting missions that you know give you rewards and you don't have to assist. So, ta-da! Resubbed for dramatic background music. Thanks, mate. Yeah. Yeah, here's me doing 100% of the damage to kill the Polaris and getting 23,000 credits. Absolutely. I melted my Dominus package I got for the Idris today with the K-Kit, 6 years of waiting. Congrats on winning the X5, the F5 war. Well done. Icor, good to see you, my friend. Welcome in. yeah, so some fun stuff it's been happening, and a few things, you know, kind of kicking around and keeping people busy, and then just the drama, and the drama is the drama, right? So what I do have, I might just pop this up because it might be a little bit fun. I'm going to pop this up without the music.
All right, my ship in the hangar. It's going to take us a couple of minutes to get there. I'm going to.
Okay, so you've had a little bit of chat there. That's because I've just put up the video of Invictus. Oh, sorry, of us flying the Idris around. So this is me in my Michelin Man suit, flying around at Invictus in one of the Idrises. So we'll just talk with this in the background because it makes for interesting viewing, right? So there's that. I really want the Liberator after being on the Idris. Ugh. Socially, are we back to the conversation about carriers? Because, oh my god, dude, please don't, please, no. There's been enough controversy over the last little while that I don't need to be talking about that as well. Okay, good. I want a mobile base. Nice. Yeah. I mean, and this thing is really quite impressive. Let's just move it on until we've got something to. I think here we were trying to find a. Oh, here we go. That's better. We got something to do now. And these locations are kind of cool and interesting and kind of stealthed into the game. I don't know if they were always there, but this is the first time I've seen them. That's kind of cool. Cracking it is, says Arjon. Yeah, you're not wrong, sir. So yeah, so I think, you know, the Star Citizen CIG, not Star Citizen, Clan Imperium Games have heard what we've said, and they've reacted, and that's a good thing, right? They've heard, and they've taken some action to go, hey, we hear you're not happy, and that's kind of an important step. This is one thing that I've always said is that, you know, what's interesting about this over everything else, like watching, for example, Helldivers 2 and the issue with constant nerf to things like, you know, the weapon systems and stuff like that, you know, they don't seem to be listening very much to the Helldivers community. They do things to say sorry that they give out from free currency or whatever else, but that's it. They don't seem to be doing much else. CIG did listen. Whether you got the answer that you wanted or whether we got the answer that we feel like we needed is another matter entirely. They've done something about it though. So there's that. Had a rumour about some abandonment of a captain's post yesterday, says MCOM. I'm entirely sure I don't know what you're talking about. I own a Liberator. I'm not too prideful like Badger to call myself a ferry captain. No, you can call yourself a ferry captain. My only problem with the Liberator is that people keep calling it a carrier, and that is factually incorrect. So there's that. And then people keep winding me up about it. So now anytime I see the Liberator, I just get triggered off this whole it's not a carrier thing, and then I don't want it. So what's really funny is Liberator owners have made me hate the Liberator. Congratulations, you played yourself. You're 100% right. It's important, but them even trying to start this, yeah, exactly that. So they needed to get a swift kick in the nuts here. What I was going to say before the Invictus page kicked in and we jumped over was that this thing about games, you know, why can't people have what's the words I'm looking for? Why can't people use money to shortcut time in game? If they don't have the time to run up to something, if they're not getting anything other than what players are getting, why can't they use money to shortcut it? Right? I think that's a valid argument. That WoW did that with Game Time. Thingy did that with Plex. There has to be very careful controls on it so that it doesn't get out of hand. But not everything in games can be sold like that, even though other games do it, right? It's the whole, what about, oh, well, they might use, they might, use, they might 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 use, what's the phrasing I'm looking for? You know, they don't sell experience. They don't sell, you know, for that sort of stuff. You might be able to buy a character boost, but it's so expensive, and the character doesn't actually get anything for it. It just becomes a higher level. So yeah, so I think, you know, there's a careful balance to be had here. My main issue is that they are monetizing something that was previously not monetized, that we've had in that sort of way, and they are continuing to do it. You know, and again, we all talk about risk, and people talked about, well, I'm not sure about this whole, you know, you can't lose your armor now, there's no risk to your armor. Well, they've just done exactly the same thing with ship components. Because if you can buy them with real money and they don't go anywhere, how is that any different to people having that with armor and weapons? So if that was a problem, but you don't see the problem with this, maybe it's more of a perception issue than anything else. I mean, maybe it's not, right? I'm happy to say it might not be, but you know, we'll see as we go on. Sorry, I'm hoping that the fan's not getting too annoying. I can knock it off again. We've got a little bit of air moving through, so there's that. Their reaction wasn't great. It really needed a ukulele and a song, also an actual apology. The day I could automate even some of my character arts, that becomes home. I mean, this is the other thing that's really interesting, right? Is that, hey, see, this is me in my Michelin Man suit, doing the command pose on the bridge. This is me playing games. Sorry, guys. I realise that's probably a bit of a letdown. But yeah. No Atlas gun variants from Argo? No, absolutely not. You wouldn't believe how much crap I got on that short where I said this isn't coming in game. And you know, there were a few posters who told me I was basically a lunatic for not believing so. I think after this stream, I'm going to go back onto that short and I'm going to fuck a couple of people because yeah, they deserve it. So there's that. Day I could automate, yeah. So there's that, because that's the other thing, interesting thing with the automation is, first of all, automation is remote turrets, not manned ones. To our understanding at the moment. So there's that. And there's obviously going to be a limit. You've only got to look at the computers as they stand now, even though they're not in. There is only so much space for blades in there. You know, and I would imagine it's going to be one blade per turret, right? Although we don't know. So that's just a guess. CIG's naming conventions are interesting. You're not wrong, Tech. If it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck, says Chavez, I suppose. In the WoW economy, the economy is entirely busted because of real money trading. I mean, the economy was always busted with real money trading. What Blizzard were able to do was try and bring it in-house. And I'm not saying they got it right, but if you can adjust for, you know, the prices of those gold coins for inflation and everything else, then, you know, and use it to control the economy a little bit, maybe, sure. But yeah. And that's the other thing is, but wow, the economy is entirely busted because of real money trading. So let's have the conversation again about using real money to buy stuff in game. Just saying. I'm off playing Fallout 76. Mate, good to see you. Thank you very much for popping in, and we'll catch you in a little bit. Oh god, that poser says stack. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. Wolf, hello buddy, good to see you. Hoping XL1 didn't get sold next on the store. After this, your guess is as good as mine. We will find out. But yeah. I just gotta say this, right? Because unfortunately this thing has been overshadowed. And I'm gonna stop that right now. This thing in combat with all that, can we just go back a little, just go back, let's go back a few seconds, right? This thing in combat like this, right? As we turned and all the turrets were firing and everything was lighting off, right? Even though the fact there's something wrong with the doors, we couldn't close the doors, right? So it looks silly. Looks like we just want to get boarded the whole time, right? But this, just everything lighting off, everything fighting, all in different directions. We did a very simple thing. We split the ship up into 3 weapon batteries. We have port side, starboard side, and the main battery, which is the big nose turret and the and the chin beam gun or the rail gun. We used both. That was so much fun to be just calling, out what they should be doing and all that sort of stuff. Even if most of what I did was just give the port and starboard weapon batteries weapons free, it was really, really good fun. Yeah, like with the turrets, it's so much fun. I got into it, and the very first thing I said was, "This is 100% why I backed Star Citizen." A crew of people on that ship, and just how many people it takes to crew all of the turrets and the main gun. Oh, well, I mean, that's the pilot, right? But, and everything else. And then you add into that things like ATC and the fighter pilots, and then you start running around with engineering. When that kind of arrives, you can see very, very quickly, like, how cool it's going to be to run that ship. Also, how much of a strain it is on comms, and people are going to have to start to move in things like Gilded and that very quickly to be able to separate it up and not have everyone talking over each other all the time. It's going to kind of be a little bit crazy. I think personally, says AB, if they want to still sell stuff like that, they should have it done like the 300i customizer, make it so we can swap our blades or bombs and missiles. Everything else done in game. Any changes after and such, just grind it. Yeah, very possibly. I was a fight with 3 Idris versus 1 Idris, and it was amazing, says Socially. The beam weapon is amazing. Yeah, it fires for an incredibly long amount of time, as you can see here. Like, that's too long. That's just... There's no skill to it. You've got auto-aim, you just click it, it stays on. So even if you fall off for a couple of seconds, as a percentage of the amount of time it fires, you're not losing anything. Compare that to the utter skill shot and the very long cooldown of the railgun. There's not really a comparison between the two. It's going to get naffed. But we know this. When they release stuff in-game, it gets naffed, it calms down, right? So there's that. Throw an engineer, it could be an incredible time, says Jock Cop. Absolutely. I wish they changed all the turrets to remote. It would make cooling the bridge way cooler. Yeah, I mean, they're going to put other stuff on there. You don't want everything remote, because that's, again, the next step to just putting in blades and making Idris solo crewed, and that's not the point of them. If you want to fly something like an Idris, there is a multi-crew component to it, and the bigger the ship, the more people you will need. And if they deviate from that, they're doing it wrong. That's the whole point of this game. Manny says, Avenger 1 had an awesome stream yesterday. His Polaris took out a dozen Idris and 2 Polaris in a 4-hour stream. Holy moly. Yeah. Comms are challenging, some more discipline would help. Interesting, isn't it? We're all sat here talking about a computer game and everyone's talking comms discipline. Like, what are we doing as gamers? Yeah, it's so... I think people get a little bit frustrated with me sometimes when we're playing games. It's because I'm not in people's faces. I've done that style of job. I've been an officer in the Royal Navy. I was an officer in the Royal Navy for 11 years. I've done that in face. This is a game. It's chill. It's what the fuck. Do you know what I mean? If people want to go that way, that's fine. But I feel like people need to know that that's what it is coming in, because no one wants to be playing a game where they're being told to shut up all the time. So yeah. There's that. I had a mate fly the ship, says Matthew, but I jumped in the front turret running back and forth to the bridge. Sucked. Why are you running back to the bridge? What were you going back to the bridge for? If they're flying the ship. The laser beam time will get naffed. Yeah, it's the normal, oh, we've sold it, now we'll naff it. So that's going to happen. Hopefully, the music's going quite nicely with the what's on screen. I'm not going to lie, sometimes I just want to sit there and admire that. Because it's so much fun. To have everyone lighting off and all that sort of stuff. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, this is the bit where we were trying to get out because the Polaris was doing a really good job of aiming at us. Laser is also too forgiving, says Socially. It's so easy to correct aim and keep damage on another ship in comparison to the railgun. Yeah, that's it. There's no skill to using it when you put it up against the railgun. The guy was brand new to the game, didn't know how to turn up shields, actually turned off guns or sat in jump mode, etc. Were you not using voice comms? Would that not have... Just tell them what the buttons are. From my experience as Icon, peeps that have been in are more relaxed than those that haven't with respect to organised crews in MMO, but that's just me. Very possibly, yeah. I imagine some of them are quite in your face, but you know, at the end of the day, I've always been chill about this stuff. I tried an Armour 3 milsim, and I burnt out very quickly on that game. Faster if I just played it, to the point where I go back and play it infrequently. But yeah, it kind of turned me off the whole thing. Idris has the DPS edge, with the Polaris is faster and more maneuverable. Once you know where to hit the Idris, it changes things. Yeah, I think the other thing is that, of course, that PDCs just seem to... they only target things that are locked on. If you dumbfire, it doesn't seem to affect it at the minute. I don't know if that's intentional. I hope that it isn't. Because that's not the way CWIS, close-in weapon systems, and that sort of stuff work in real life. It'll just engage stuff in the ship. You can put minimum speed on it. So what you can have is you can have helicopters flying around the fleet, no problem. Because the range on CWIS is only like 1.5 miles anyway. As when it, you know, if it's something incoming, it'll engage at 1.5 miles because they'll meet, and it won't be anything like 1.5 mile range. But you know, if you say, hey, like anything below 150 knots is safe, like CWIS will know it's there and won't do a damn thing about it, and you can basically switch it on and walk away from it. Not that you ever would on a warship, but you could if you wanted to. So CWIS will just look at stuff. They are what they call selfish weapon systems. They're only bothered about stuff that's coming at them. But on a radar, of course, it just sees something that's heading for it. And there's a role within naval warships called the goalkeeper. Right, it was actually one of our Western weapon systems as well, but the idea was that you knew roughly where the threat was coming from. You would put yourself between your mission essential unit or your high value unit and that threat, and you would basically force the missile like it was coming over you. It wasn't targeting you, it was going to the ship behind you, but you would spoof your own weapon systems into believing it was a threat, and they would then engage it. And the other thing is maybe you caught it, but losing a frigate is a lot less of a blow to a fleet than losing a carrier. So that's the thing. And that, for me, is very much the role of something like the Hammerhead, to just sit in the way. And if that takes the blow, and an Idris or a Javelin, I mean, definitely something like a Bengal, right? It takes the hit, aim for a Bengal, so what? So yeah. Goalkeeper, that was the system introduced in the Sheffield estate. So yes, the first ships were to get it were the 22 batch 3s. They got Goalkeeper. The fun thing about Goalkeeper is that Goalkeeper, the gun it uses is the GAU-38, the GAU-38 that is on the front of the A10. It's the same gun, and I'm gutted. I've left it downstairs. I actually have a shell from that weapon. Don't ask me how, but I've got a shell from that weapon downstairs on display. So yeah, if anyone ever finds out where I live, I'll show you the Goalkeeper shell. No, that's not an invitation to come and... No, forget I said that. Forget I said that. That's not an invitation to go find out where I live. Jock says, I'm in the same boat for half an hour. Between the army and police, mate, I'm not interested in any kind of milsim. Bears and chaos all the way. 100%. I kind of wish the Hammerhead had a load of PZCs along with its turrets. Hopefully, in the future, it will do something like that. That escort role is what I wanted to be doing in the fleet. Yeah, exactly that. Something, and there's a load of stuff that I can talk about with that isn't, I mean, it isn't classified, right? You can go and find the stuff online if you really knew where to look. But there's a load of stuff on that I want to talk about how escorts work and how you position a fleet. Because, of course, it's not like in, you know, in ground combat where you're like, hey, go put the anti-tank gun near the farmhouse, you know, put the machine guns over and that hedge over there. There's none of that, right? And I know I'm massively simplifying it, and Jock Cop's probably just thrown up all over himself because I've put that section over there, put that section over there. I get it, right? But in space or at sea, they work differently, right? Because you can't go like if you go over by that wave over there, right? So the way you position a fleet, the way you have your pickets and everything else, works off a moving reference point, which is normally whatever your mission essential unit is, which is your carrier. And that is absolutely something that they could imitate in this game. Absolutely something that they could imitate with minimal effort. So yeah, we'll see. Manny says, I was glad to read the Polaris is soon getting a polish pass to reduce polygon counts, so it has less impact on running the game. Yeah, there's a few things they can do with that. I mean, I hope they don't lose too much, because the ship's looking... High fidelity ships is kind of the hallmark of Star Citizen, and hopefully they find some way to make them look still incredible to the level of detail of something like, say, the F8 on the Idris at scale. I appreciate there's going to be something there because they can't run that precisely on a one-to-one, but hopefully they can do something right to make it look great. But I just want to discuss escorts just to bring up carriers, liberators. We no longer have battleships. Well, apparently we do have battleships according to the rumor that came out of Bar Citizen. But we know that battle cruisers and cruisers are in the stretch goals. So, ta-da! I was surprised that the Idris has no fighter repair area. People made the same comment about the Polaris, I think. This is going to be the sort of thing where I'm just staring at this and it's paused. I do apologise. I'll go and find you something else. How's that? Should we find something a little cooler? Or not a little cooler. More of the same, maybe. There we go. Picked it up pretty much from the same place. But now, what we managed to do, let's find something with... I think... there we go. Bit of a battle. What was that going on? Yeah, I think this is why one of the missions mucked up, because we went to scan something and it just didn't want to scan, like, at all. We basically put the nose turret up against it and it still wouldn't scan for us, so we blew it up and bugged the mission. Lol. But yes, exactly what Jobcot says. There will be those facilities, as in there will be racks for it, there'll be storage areas for those materials. It's a secure environment to repair, but it won't be like the Ironclad with dedicated facilities, because, why do that when you can sell it on something else? Venefica says, spent a few years on the US Navy aboard an LHA, the large amphibious assault ships, and it's almost silly how much I compare ships into this game to their real-life counterparts. Despite the drama, still love RCC. Well, I'm pleased to hear that. I'm pleased to hear that it's not, it's not diminished your love of the game. I'm pleased. And yeah, exactly that. I said exactly the same thing, I think, on stream 2 days ago, looking around the Idris, was that actually, whilst there are very significant differences between running through the inside of that and being on an actual warship, it is very possible to feel that sort of, that connection. The heritage is obvious, so that's really cool. Manny says, I'm not listening to this again. Let's listen to something else. Here we go. Lovely job. Sorry, I just keep cycling through that one for no reason. Manny says, one thing that surprised me about the Idris is the base model has 6 PDCs and empty space for 6 more. I thought it was 5 more. Almost forcing you to buy an add-on kit for a full dozen PDCs. That. Yeah. So, again, this is one of those things they'll go, well, hey, you can buy PDCs later. It's like, great. So, in an Idris against a Polaris, with weapons kit and without, even if you're not using the nose gun, and why wouldn't you? You're at a disadvantage, because you've got 5 more PDCs to defeat incoming torps. Ta-da! So I was rather pissed that they converted the K kit from having all the remote turrets changed to automatic dual force solid lasers, and instead they gave S1 PDCs. Yeah, you can still change the weapons though, right? If you wanted to, you can do it yourself. I get that it's a pain in the ass because the kit won't do it for you, but I think you can still change them. I spent a couple of months on Bulwark and our Navy compatriots refers to as the baggage class. Yeah, so I was on Bulwark 2000. 2009, 2010. We did Taurus '09. That was fun. But yeah, Bulwark's a different beast entirely. Um, yeah, they're good fun. But yeah, something like that. Because that's really interesting at the moment is looking at this is, if you look at things like the C2 and that sort of stuff, or sorry, the M2 moving tanks around. You can get some tanks on that thing, great, but where's that coming from? How is that deploying 4 systems away? And the answer is there's got to be some sort of amphib or like space version of an amphib, right? Somewhere there's got to be an invasion ship, a planetary assault ship, whatever you want to call it, that has space for all the Marines, and then that could at least land on top, and tanks could drive up and then drive into the back of the C2, and then they go. So the C2 is the ferry from orbit to ground, rather than having to go 4 systems across with multiple refuels and then come back. Because that's a really good way of warning everyone that you're about to attack them, is popping up at every, populated station going, we need more fuel because we don't have the range. So it'll be interesting to see. Yeah. All the turrets controlled by the bridge should have been automated and turned to lasers. I don't know about, I mean, they're always going to be remote, I think. And even if they weren't, I'm kind of glad that they're not. Because now you have remote turrets and PDCs, right? So you've got the 6 that are on there already. You've got the 5 gaps that aren't in the weapons kit but can be full, that can be topped up, and you've got the remote turrets. Like, it's an addition. It's not an instead of. The Idris and its multiple kits have got me wishing for a bit more custom options for the Polaris, even if it was just more torpedo and PDC choices. Yeah, the kits thing is interesting. Again, as long as it gets sold in game, as long as people aren't, and they've said that. They made that point in the post. They made that point all the way through. That there are very few things. I mean, they try to say that everything. That's not true, right? The Sabre Raven from the Optane drive is not being sold anywhere else. So it's. I mean, and I suppose technically, CIG are correct because CIG didn't sell that. So I guess it's a technicality more than anything else. But yeah, this is the fun that we had with scanning. So let's scoot forward because this just didn't want to work at all. That's how long it took. There we go. We got some shooty shoots there. Good. You're missing the point. They were meant to be automated and swap out the size 4 ballistics for size 4 laser repeaters. I thought remote turrets were only going to get automated with blades, and blades aren't here. My M2 with a Nurser is one of my daily drivers. At 160 SCM, it's faster than traditional industry cargo ships. Yeah, I get that. Nice. M2. Big old bit of kit, that. I mean, I expect the PDCs to be compatible on all the mounts. The laser ones are the same weapon name, aren't they? Yeah, so I think the PDCs, what will eventually get is they'll be switch outable. It might be that they need to be a certain size to take the, I forget the name of the missile ones. They've got a specific name now. Someone remind me. Neil B, hello bud. I have said to you before, you are in here already. Clearly, I'm not drinking enough on these, so yeah. CIG would have sold the Raven. I'm betting they can't without intel say so. Yeah, 100%. Exactly that. Something like the Bengal won't be earnable per se, but you'll be able to construct it. Yeah, I mean, I really hope. I know what they did with the CitizenCon, right? They showed the station, they showed the dock, they talked about building ships, and they showed the Bengal in that dock, right? Which seems to, on any logical level, indicate that the Bengal will be buildable, right? It at least hints that way. I really like what they said about finding a ship and repairing it back up to capacity, because they weren't things that we could just build, that they had to be found. It would create huge org wars over it, that sort of stuff. I really like that, and I hope they don't lose it. And I hope there are ships that are specific to that, because that's really exciting, right? That's just such a great concept. Maybe those platforms then become, they've suggested that it could be a dynamic event where maybe every week the ship's location is broadcast, orgs can try and take it over. There's a number of hours window where you can try and take it over. Whoever's left in possession of it at the end of that then own it for the next week, and it becomes this like constant org thing. And yes, it means that most of us mere mortals who aren't in big orgs won't be part of that. It also gives the orgs something else to go and do other than smashing around players who aren't in big orgs. So I think it's like a nice trade-off. And I think it's really cool. And even if I'm not part of that, the Pepper Box. Thank you, gents. Appreciate it. Yeah, the Pepper Box is the missile PDC. So back to that. You know, I think it would be something really cool to see. Even if I just watch other people do it through videos and don't get involved myself, that would still be something very, very cool to see. Okie dokie. Great. So we'll skip on to the next one. I've got a few of these. We did some footage, boys, yesterday. So let's see what else there is. Oh, this is where I went into the turrets. So I got bored of standing on the bridge in my Michelin suit. I'm still in my Michelin suit. I'm now just, you know, in the turret thing. So, let's go and find some stuff to shoot at. This is where I embarrass myself by, like, you know, being awful on the guns. Here we go. But yeah, we'll do some of this. This will be fun. Since the RSI Meteor is using the Zeus kit, what type of ship do you think it is? Yeah, so this was where they said that the Meteor might be taking some of the styling, the interior stylings from the Zeus. Is that what you're referring to? Potentially. Did you do a box mission in the address? No, I didn't, socially, and how very dare you, sir. How very dare you. So, yeah. Automated turrets were meant to function as enlarged PDCs. Obviously, that's changed, but that's not specific to the kit. You know, automated turrets, as far as I'm understanding, are only automated as part of a blade. And those blades aren't here yet. So, they said it could build the Bengal. Did they? I think they... I know they hinted at it. I can't remember if they said specifically. Yeah, so they also said that the Perseus... some of the interior of the Perseus takes inspiration from the Zeus. It also takes inspiration from the Polaris. So, yeah, it's not so much as I suppose it is a kit. But, you know, it's more a case of some of the stylings and stuff. Rather than a direct port from one to the other. So, yeah. Not going to lie, I did a basic bunker mission in one just to see how it went. Still have room to land, but dragging bodies up that ramp is a bit much. What are you doing with the bodies, Avi? What are you doing with the bodies? What? Stop it. Whatever you're doing, just stop. That blading remote turrets hasn't changed since like 2015, and even then CRG's pretty much dodged giving any details about them to this day. Yeah, I think we're seeing that the first part of this, you know, clearly this is going to feed into a whole computer thing. Computers are going to have capacities with blades. Maybe there are types of blades, as someone pointed out, combat or non-combat. Maybe there's one, you know, kind of flight blade slot, and then there's a combat slot, and maybe industrial ships won't get combat slots, but they'll get increased other things. You know, maybe combat ships will get increased combat blade slots. Like, there's, as Khan's alluding to, there is so much that they have yet to determine that it's just guesswork at this point. I can't even imagine what it's going to look like with every turret going at once. Yeah, this thing is a lot of fun to fly. What does the A2 have over the C2 apart from bombs? I mean, what apart from bombs, you kind of gloss over that quite nicely. I think the A2 also has turrets. So the remote turrets and stuff, it's covered in a lot more guns. It's just basically tankier. You know. Yeah. What's the SCU like on the A2? Slightly more limited, I think, but not hugely. There is a slight limitation to it. This was cool because I got to see a little bit of Quantum, and then it was like, no, you're a passenger, you don't get to see Quantum. So we just, oh no, this is right. This is when it just randomly kicked us out of Quantum for absolutely no reason, because CIG, right, or because Star Citizen. Okay, let's end the poll. Let's see what you guys said. I'm really interested to see what people's plans are. So, what are your plans for Invictus? 34% of you said there's something specific that I want. 30% said it's not sure yet, but I'm open. 26% said I'm not spending anything, and 9% said I'm going to say all the things. I'm going to buy all the things, rather. I have a feeling I know a couple of people in the buy all the things category. You know who you are. Yeah, you. So yeah, interesting. So, you know, more people bizarrely like, hey, if the right thing comes along, I'll buy something, and that sort of stuff. I'm the buyer specific, says Matthew. Yeah. So, interesting. Funny you should say that, Matthew. I agree. I'm always on the kind of lookout for things like CCUs, just to see if either I can improve a chain that I'm on, or, you know, just things that are like options are great too. You know, and then at the end, if I'm not happy with it and I don't use it, I just use the money for something else. Also, just while I'm here, just thinking, has anyone tried landing an MPUV in one of these things? Other than me. Oh. I stole this from her. Maybe coming to a short near you soon? Yeah, so the specific MPUV, which is bay, which is a hatch underneath, that is rough. It can be copyrighted all at once. And actually, no, that's someone beatboxing, which is kind of crazy. But it can be copyrighted all at once. None of my streams are monetized in an effort to keep you guys from watching ads. I would rather you guys don't miss stuff and me miss out on a tiny little bit of revenue from ads than force my luck. So, yeah, that. None of my streams have ads on it, on these things. Yeah. Badger's new career as a beatboxer. I wish that, mate, if I could do that, I absolutely would be beatboxing for a living. That's incredible. That dude is just... He's got so much stuff up. If you find him, he's on like Facebook and TikTok and YouTube and all sorts of stuff. He's very, very good. Absolute nutter. Very possibly, if it's copyrighted, so what? They can't do me for it. The worst I'll get is you can't have the money from the stream that you haven't monetized because there's a copyrighted song. Oh well. YouTube at this point is basically every time I go to stream is like, have you tried monetizing it? No, go away. Just stop. So yeah, so trying to land in the bottom is a little bit of fun. I think I might have a clip of me trying to do that. Let's find out. Oh, these are all from the stuff that I recorded. I think I might have an image of that. Oh yeah, here we go. So this is me. This was probably one of the scariest things that I've done in game. Was landing an MPUV tractor. It's going to take a little while because I think the guys they weren't quite at the station when I took off. But yeah, this is an interesting one. The issue with MPUV hangar is if you're in the cockpit and select open all doors, the tiny ships gets popped out and just dropped. So yeah, if you look, it's actually got this weird kind of four-pronged contraption that hangs down. I'm kind of hoping that what they do is you basically attach to that. You see the 4 holes on top? You attach to it and it holds you in place. So you walk out onto it, get in, the doors open, and then you release from that and drop, rather than, you know, have that. The Pisces fits in the MPUV hangar, does it indeed? That's an interesting piece of news. But yeah, this was a little bit fun. I think we were just mucking around at this stage. Let's just fast forward it. Here we go. Good music for it. I tell you what, just to drown out the fan a little bit more, let's just knock up the dramaticness a little bit more. Just as the bloody music cuts out. All right, maybe not then. Fine, whatever. But yeah, we had 12 people on yesterday doing this, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah. The depth perception in this game is a real issue for me. I don't know if anyone else struggles with this, to see whether they're completely aligned or not. But yeah, this was a little bit rough. We had the hangar open. The thing is, you don't want to go in with your landing gear down. You kind of want to wait until it's, until you're safely in the hangar and the doors closed before you do that, for reasons that you're about to see. It is, yeah, that. And then watch what happens when I put the gear down. Is basically, I don't know if you can see that, but the top thrusters are jammed against the deck head. They're jammed against the ceiling. So she is proper wedged. Proper wedged. So yeah, I kind of like it. If you can just fly in and attach to that thing, that's really cool. They close the doors, you jump out. I like that a lot, because then you can do other stuff with it. That's kind of cool. Yeah, that was me shaking my head going, that was not fun. I don't want to do that again. So yeah, great. And there's just having a look at the bits and pieces around. So yeah, that was interesting. It does work. Yeah. So the bottom room is pointless unless it does end up auto docking. Yeah. Oh, okay. Edison, if it's already doing that, that's very, very cool. I'm all over that. That's great. So you can dock to it. That's very cool. Might have to go and give that a go later if people are on. So we've kind of covered. We've had a look at what's in Invictus today. A little bit of an underwhelming day. Nothing new. Connie Taurus for the War Bond. The Flight Blades thing, time will tell. We know that games media will jump all over it. A couple of big YouTubers who are not normally Star Citizen focused have got hold of it as well. We've had PC Games Network has done an article that's been released now that's all over Facebook and other social media. We'll have to see what the backlash looks like. What bothers me a little bit about a couple of the people that are talking about this is they're wrong again. Like if what CIG have done is that bad, then maybe what they should do is focus on the facts rather than misrepresenting everything else to make it worse. One of the big YouTubers that I saw this morning when I woke up to the notification in my feed was saying that Star Citizen gamers weren't gamers. That this is, for the people that spend lots of money, this is all we play. We don't play anything else, so we're not really gamers because Star Citizen's all we do. Which, like, that's a little bit creepy. The more you think about that, the creepier that becomes. Is the first thing someone has to do is make the people they're talking about seem different from the viewer. It's like, oh no, don't worry, they're not like you and me, like us and them sort of stuff. That's really creepy. That's fucking creepy, frankly. And I'm tempted to to take the war on to YouTube. I won't, because it's just more drama than I can be bothered with. But you know, when you feel like, you know, and the other thing is they've spent 800 million on this. They haven't. That's not what's happened. They started with 13 staff. They're now over 1,000 staff in 5 countries, 4 countries. Like, what are you talking about? You know, they've had to pay those staff and all that property and all that stuff and set it up and all that over 12, 13 years. Like, to say it's just been poured into the game is just misrepresenting it. But hey, I guess there's a lot of gamers that don't care about facts. You and I do, because otherwise we wouldn't be here, right? That's what we put up in the channel. Is I'm all for calling out CIG when they did something wrong, and I feel like they've done something wrong now, but that doesn't mean that you get to ignore the facts for everything else, be annoying, and just misrepresent everything to make it seem worse than they are. Because if you're needing to make things seem worse than they are, it's not that bad to begin with. So maybe those people need to grow up a little bit. But there's that. Cool. It's not the first time game. I remember back in when people knew the only games they played were WoW and other MMOs. Single game gamers aren't really on new or bad thing necessarily. No, but the bit that I'm after is, where did that come from? Some of the biggest whales that I know play plenty of other games. In fact, some of the biggest whales I know don't play this anymore. Like, they're waiting for it to get more functionality. So I'm really interested to find out where these people are and who they talk to, and then to try and roll that out and make that represent a lot of the Star Citizen community. That's not the case. I know pretty much everyone in DGP plays other games. We all talk about playing other games. This is, you know, we all have played other games. You know, there's a difference between doesn't play other games and focusing on one game and doing that exclusively, and then focusing on something else, and then focusing on something else, and then coming back to it. That's very different to they only ever play Star Citizen. It just struck me as a little bit of a low blow. Hello, Sebastian. Good to see you, my friend. Hope we're having a fantastic day in Old Blighty. Mate, it is so bright out there. I'm just going to pull the curtain. No, I'm not, because I'll fall out of the chair. Yeah. You know I'm only wearing stockings and suspenders from the waist down, right? And nobody needs to see that. But it makes me feel comfortable. It makes me feel the essence of myself. Oh God, that comment's never going away. Good. So yeah, Luke did that to make it an us against SC players. That's exactly who I'm thinking of socially. That's exactly who I'm thinking of. It's just, you know, that phrasing, because I'm wearing stockings and suspenders. Like, no, that's not phrasing. There's no way you can phrase that where it doesn't sound creepy. They read it to the raft, yet you can't buy it, lol. Yeah, so, boss, the thing here is that Invictus is a military celebration. So, if it's military or military adjacent, you'll get it. Like the Starfarer Gemini being a military supply ship, you'll get that. The MPUV being, a support vehicle for the Idris, you'll get that. The SRV being a towing vehicle, which will enable them to bring back damaged and abandoned ships, military adjacent. It's not military in and of itself. The raft is just a cargo ship, so it won't be part of this, unfortunately. Not saying that that's right, just saying that that's the way this is set up. So yeah. The raft is part of the patch and reworked. Yeah, that's a bit of a shame. Hopefully it gets made to be part of the subscriber thing at least next month. So even if you're not a subscriber yourself, you can ask someone to borrow one. That'd be cool, and get to test it out. What are the suspenders attached to? Wait, never mind. Don't answer that, please. You don't want to know. Anyway, now that we're talking about that, I feel like we've probably gone, too far down that rabbit hole already. Oh God, phrasing. That's phrasing, Notorious. That's phrasing. We've gone far too far down that hole already. God. On that note, I will be streaming as normal tomorrow from 9 PM. Might be a slightly shorter one, because obviously we've covered an awful lot already. But it was great to see you guys. Maybe we'll do some stuff in the game on stream. Maybe a little bit more Idris. Whilst that's going on, I will leave you with this incredible footage that is going on, this fight and everything else. This is the railgun, so this is where we got torpedoed by people who were like, you hit us with the size 4, so we're going to torp you. You know, bless them. So yeah, thank you very much for coming along. Same as normal, stream tomorrow from 9. Every day, about 4:45, when we change over, I will be here to talk all things Star Citizen and what's going on. And yeah, link to Discord down in below. DWGP is the org. If you want to come and join, it would be great to see you all. But thank you very much for popping in again. Great numbers, probably fueled a little bit by the drama, but actually just really good discussion with everyone. It's been great to see you all, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. If I see you tomorrow, awesome. If I don't, take care. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.